So you're eating less food, you've started doing cardio, you're training abs every day, but you still can't seem to lose the fat. And now you're questioning yourself, why? Why aren't I able to lose this stubborn fat? And you may see or hear people online saying how easy it is to lose fat. Like all you need to do is just eat less. And then you just end up feeling worse. But here's the thing, everyone is different. And for some of you, it may actually be very tough for you to lose the fat due to your genetics and how many fat cells you have. And therefore, you may genuinely struggle to eat less food and move more. And if you feel like you're alone in this, you aren't. There are also so many people out there that also find it very difficult to lose fat, no matter how hard they try. In fact, I've coached many clients over the past few years that were overweight and also struggled with these same issues, but we found ways to mitigate them, and therefore they were able to lose weight over time. So if you're not losing fat but you feel like you're doing everything right, then make sure to stick around because I'm going to explain why that is and how you can change that. So generally there are two different types of people. Someone who finds it easier to stay lean and someone who finds it a lot harder to stay lean. And that's because everyone has a different level of ghrelin in their body. Ghrelin is a hormone that is responsible for hunger. So the more ghrelin that is released in the body, the increased hunger signals you are going to get. And therefore it's more likely that you're going to eat more food throughout the day. Some people have lower levels of ghrelin, and if this is the case, then they generally don't tend to eat a lot because they aren't hungry, and therefore it's a lot easier for them to stay lean. And then you have some people with higher levels of ghrelin, and this can be due to genetics, or they just have more fat cells in the body, and fat cells increase the amount of ghrelin you have. And that's why people who are already overweight tend to become more overweight, because the amount of fat cells increases and therefore the level of ghrelin increases. And that's when it becomes super hard for them to control their appetite. So if you feel like you fall into that category where it's hard for you to eat less and stay in a calorie deficit because you're constantly hungry, then this is probably the reason why you aren't able to lose fat. And this can become a problem because it takes so much mental strength just to eat less food. But if you want to be able to lose fat, then you're going to need to find some sort of solution. So I'm going to give you a few ways on how you can eat the same amount of food but still be able to lose weight. So you don't actually need to reduce the amount of food you eat. You can probably still get away with eating around the same amount, but the amount of calories that you consume will be much lower. So what you want to do is substitute the foods that you're currently eating to higher volume foods, higher fiber foods, and more satiating foods like protein. People generally don't tend to know what they're eating. They go and grab things like nuts, biscuits, chips, not knowing that these foods are very calorific and that they barely take up any space in their stomach. So they're barely filled up after eating them. It's much easier to drop weight when the foods have half the calories. So you want to look for foods that will fill you up, but also much lower in calories. If you eat higher volume foods like fruits and vegetables, then you'll be consuming a lot less calories, but for double or even triple the volume, and therefore you won't end up feeling hungry. And guys, if you want to know exactly what foods to eat that will melt your fat away, then go give this video a watch. Next major issue occurs with tracking your food intake. Tracking your food intake is like tracking your finances. If you can't seem to save money, then you've got to track what you earn and every single dollar and cent you spend. A lot of people track most of what they spend, but sometimes don't include the small things like the coffees, the snacks, and if they're spending on these little things a few times a week, then this can add up very quickly. And by the end of the month, instead of saving money, they're outspending what they earn. And the exact same thing happens with tracking calories. You know, most people track most of what they eat, so the major things like the rice, the chicken, but when it comes to the oils, the sauces, the milk in the coffee, all of these little things, they don't end up tracking it because for most people it seems like there's no point. It's such a small amount. And even if these small things add up to an extra 100 to 200 calories a day, by the end of the week this can easily become an extra 1,000 to 2,000 calories that they're consuming, and this can easily make them go from a deficit into a surplus. And then they're wondering why they're not able to lose any fat, because they think they're tracking everything correctly. But because of these small things that they may not notice they're having, they aren't. Remember, these little things can add up very quickly and could very well be the reason why you're not seeing any progress. It's a stat that 1/3 of people underreport calories by 20 to 50%. So you may believe you're having 1,200 calories a day, but if that were the case, then you would have definitely lost a bunch of weight by now. If you haven't lost the weight, then it could be that you're just underreporting calories. And so all you need to do is just track more accurately and start tracking every single little thing that you're consuming, including drinks. So my advice is that if you want to lose weight and get ripped and stay ripped, then start reading the labels on the back of food and drink packages. So start reading the labels for everything, and don't think that you need to quit eating all of these high calorie foods because it will make you gain fat. That's not the case. As long as they fit within your calories and you're tracking accurately, then they're fine to have occasionally. But the reason why it's important to start reading the labels on the food and drinks, because you need to know what you're putting into your body on a daily basis. You know, this chocolate bar has this many calories, or this cake has this many calories. For example, you may think that this small cake has 300 to 400 calories, but then if we check the label, it actually has close to 1,000 calories. So it's a lot more than what you actually believe. That's why it's super important for you to track what you're consuming daily, as it will allow you to make better decisions. If you see you're having around 100 grams of ketchup per day, and it's 100 calories per 100 grams, and then you may think to yourself, oh wow, that's quite a lot of calories. So let me just reduce the amount I'm having, or switch to the 50% less sugar one, which has half the calories. Instead of having 500 calories worth of chocolates, let me just switch to this 200 calorie protein bar. And instead of having 200 calories worth of oils in my food, let me just switch to this oil spray, which is 1 calorie per spray. You know, it's small changes, but it makes a big difference over time. Tracking will help you to understand and make better decisions with what you're consuming. And although it may seem small now, it will make a big difference to your fat loss down the road. And it doesn't have to be hard. Just invest in a weighing scale, then weigh out the food you're going to eat, then put that in a calorie tracking app like MyFitnessPal with the exact volume and quantity, and there you have your calories. When I got shredded for the first time, so I lost 16 kilograms, I actually manually tracked everything on a piece of paper. So I wrote down the food I was going to eat, the amount, so the amount in grams, and then calculate how many calories that was and just note everything down. I did it the old school way, and I did this for around 6 months. But this was honestly one of the best things I ever did, because it helped me to understand what I was eating and how many calories were in each food. So now I know how many calories there are in certain foods per 100 grams. So now when I do track my calories, it just makes everything a lot quicker and easier, because I know exactly what foods I should stay away from when I'm trying to lose fat. And it makes the entire fat loss process just much more efficient. Now, I'm not telling you to do what I did, because I know that will take a lot of time, but you can use calorie tracking apps like MyFitnessPal or Calorie to get an understanding of how many calories and what the macros are, so the proteins, carbs, and fats that are in each food, and the foods that you consume, you know, pretty consistently on a daily basis and more often. And this will help you to get a better understanding on how to structure your diet so that you can start to lose fat with ease. And finally, I want to talk about drinks. And no, not alcohol, although if you do drink alcohol, it's really not going to help you. But I'm talking about more of the calorific drinks like sodas and juices. So if you take a juice like this, these generally contain additional sugars and are quite calorific. But most people wouldn't really think about tracking this, as number one, it's not a food, and number two, they would probably assume that it doesn't contain a lot of calories, so therefore it's not worth tracking, as it's not going to make much of a difference. But unfortunately, juices like these do contain a lot of calories, so if you do think about having one, then make sure to log it. But my advice would be to try and avoid them altogether, as it's just going to be a waste of calories for you. But what's more popular than juices is sodas. So this soda can has 150 calories. And if you're having 2 or 3 of these a day, then this can add up to a huge amount. But if you take a look at this Diet Coke, it has 0 calories. So you can save a ton of calories by switching from just this to this. Now, another reason why I like diet drinks is because they actually kill your hunger cravings. So studies show that people who drink non-calorie sweetened beverages tend to be more satiated than people who drink just water, and therefore they're able to lose more fat and keep more of it off. So sometimes it can actually be a positive to drink diet drinks rather than water, because you'll be more satiated, you'll be able to lose more fat and keep more of it off in the long term. So guys, it may not be your fault that you struggle to lose weight, but there are certain things that you can do and can do better, like the things I've talked about in this video, that will help you to lose weight and keep it off. I know it can be hard, but at least give yourself a chance, take action and push through these hard times, because it will eventually become easier. So guys, hope this video was helpful. And if you've struggled to lose weight in the past, but you found a way to lose it and keep it off, then comment down below, because I'd like to know your story. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe down to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on the bell notifications, because I release a video every single Saturday just like this, and you don't want to miss them. And summer's just 3 months away, so if you want to follow the exact guide that will get you lean for summer, then I recommend watching this video next. And remember, stay natty, stay lean, and peace.